Hi, I'm Regina Davis.
And I'm Patrick Coleman. Welcome
to Entrepreneurship Wisdom to Wealth. Thank you for joining us with Entrepreneurship Wisdom to Wealth. We have Miss Nicole Parker, who actually tell us about your consulting and give us a little background.
Hi, thanks for having me on. My name is Nicole Parker, and I am one of the co-owners of ANP Consulting. I actually started this consulting business with my sister, Elisa Parker, which is the acronym where the acronym comes from. Our names, Elisa and Nicole Parker. And we do consulting work. Our tagline is we help individuals be the change they want to see in the world. We work with organizations, individuals, and communities looking to do work to improve the lives of marginalized communities. So that can be from strategic planning, organizational development, programming, or just coming along organizations and providing consulting services to them to look at the world from a more equitable lens.
Awesome. And where are you doing a lot of this work at? What communities have you been able to impact?
I've done a lot of this work here in my hometown in Kalamazoo, Michigan, but we've also been able to work in various other locations. Battle Creek, Michigan. We've done some partnerships and worked with some foundations in Grand Rapids as well. We also have even done some work internationally down in St. Kitts. I've had an opportunity to go and do some work with an organization there in the Caribbean. But majority of the work that we've been doing with ANP Consulting has been in the West Michigan area.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of your work, actually, we call it social entrepreneurship. We'll edit that. And so tell us a little what that means.
Social entrepreneurship. So I actually got into this work and learned about it when I went to grad school. I actually have my master's in social entrepreneurship from George Mason University. And from that work, really it's about doing business from a standpoint of having a social good, a social cost to it. So you're really looking at the triple bottom line, not just the impact that you can make from revenue, gaining capital, but really saying what impact can you make from a social standpoint. And so for us, when we decided to start our business, we have a nonprofit background. My family actually has a nonprofit here in Kalamazoo called Charlie's Place, and that stands for Pursuing Leadership and Community Engagement. And through Charlie's Place, we wanted to know how could we be sustainable long term, and understanding that oftentimes nonprofits are in the loop of grant cycles and always having to go for money. And so when I went to graduate school, I was like, I need to understand how we can make money while also making a social good, and which is where I came through and learned about social entrepreneurship. And for me, also added that layer of social equity into work of social entrepreneurship. So when I look at the work that we're doing, we're really saying, how do we use our role of social entrepreneurship, social innovation to create change in our communities that is going to have a social impact in all areas of lives of the people that we're working with.
Okay.
About the impact, good evening. Do you mind if I call you Nikki or Miss Parker? I want to be respectful.
Hey, call me Nikki,
Okay, Miss Parker. I love the intro. I really did, as far as the breakdown of how you got started. What motivated you and your sister to, I guess, was it an epiphany that you guys had? Was it something that you guys sat around and said, okay, let's do this? Or did you see a need in your community that prompted you to want to give back to your community?
Absolutely. It was all of the above. It was a need, it was a prompting. So when I finished graduate school, and like I said, I went to grad school because I wanted to make sure our nonprofit in 20, 30, 40 plus years, we're still here and be able to make an impact. But while being in school and learning about social entrepreneurship and being on the East Coast, where I was meeting a lot of people who were consultants and saying, you can make money doing the work that you're actually doing while creating that impact. So I began to work with people and see this happening, as well as my research for my thesis project was centered around Black women being the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs, least funded, least supported. And so that really fascinated me to begin to dig into that and say, why are we starting businesses this way? And then at the same time, I'm getting an inkling to want to start my own business after we had started a nonprofit. And so for me, I said, you know what, we need to start our own, as well as having worked within traditional workspaces. For me, I felt like I couldn't be myself. I couldn't show up authentically. And so after graduating and going through the trying to get hired, looking for new jobs, I was like, I have the gifts and the ability to do this myself. At the same time, my sister and I were providing consulting services completely for free, to organizations in our community. We had nonprofits who said, hey, you have a gift to be able to help people organize and strategize. Would you all be willing to come and help us? So we were doing a lot of this stuff for free, pro bono, doing strategic planning sessions with people, helping people start businesses. And we eventually were like, we need to actually do this ourselves, right? And turn this into a business. And our first, I guess, quote unquote, client was our own nonprofit. After the first year we started, we wanted to do our board retreat. And we didn't have the funding to bring in a strategic planner to help us with our end of the year planning. And so my sister and I were like, we do this in our own job. So how about we start it? And we did that for our board. And the rest of our family said, you all work well together. You should do this as a business. So it was kind of like this continual affirmation that we should do it. People in the community were like, kept calling on us to do this, and I was getting this knowledge while I was in grad school. So we eventually said, we're going to step out on faith and we're going to do this.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that.
So you have business with your sister. So how does that work? Because we've had other interviews, couples, and now we have relatives, sisters. How does that work? How do you work together so well?
Working with family is always great. It has its challenges, but my sister and I, we work really well together. So for her, she actually is an attorney full time, and she is a supervising attorney for her office. And so majority of the day-to-day operations I actually do. And so with us, we are constantly in communication. I think that's what's been successful in helping us work together well, as well as we've had experience working together. Like I said, our family has a nonprofit. Elisa and I are two of six. So in addition to we had that opportunity to work together doing the nonprofit work, and our family growing up our parents were very intentional about, you all are sisters and you all need to know how to work well together. So our whole entire life has been about doing community work and learning how to work well together. My father was organizing programs, and we were right along with him doing this work in the community. Same thing with my mother. So from a very early age, we learned how to communicate with each other. We learned how to work well together. But for us, it's constant communication. But there are days where, like I said, I do majority of the day-to-day operations, and then she comes along with me to help with some of the strategizing and working with our clients when we have larger projects as well. But for me, it really it started at home. It started when we were young. Our parents said, you all need to learn how to work together. And that's where a lot of our passion for working with community came from, because we said, listen, we have to communicate and we have to work well together as siblings if we want to impact the community as well. And not only do I work with her with our nonprofit, then we have the business together, but we also have another organization called Sisters in Business with my other two sisters who are also entrepreneurs, and they each have their own business. So we all work together to do that work in Sisters in Business as well. So it's been one of those trial and error. There are days when we just go at it with each other, but we can come back together, laugh, and make it work and keep going.
Okay.
Well, we thank you for mentioning the whole sibling piece. And it's beautiful that, you're keeping that structure in the family. What are some of the, and I think you probably answered some of this, Ms. Parker, but what are some of the building blocks that you have set in place to make not a cookie cutter organization, but make the organization where someone can build off of what you, other females, and I'm gonna say that other black females can build off of what you have created, you and your sister have created?
A lot of the building blocks that we put in place for us, we wanted to be transparent from the beginning when we started our organization, both with ANP Consulting and with Sisters in Business. We said we have to share what our process is along the way, but also recognizing that we had to build a strong foundation. So one of the things we did right off the gate was saying that we want to make sure that we had some type of strategic plan in place for us to say, where are we going? And really wanting to set a vision for this and saying, if we are setting the vision and being on one accord with what this vision is that we are trying to accomplish, then we'll be able to clearly articulate where we're going. We recognize that things were going to change. So we also made sure in the process of building that we left the flexibility to allow other people to come in and help speak into the work that we were doing. So in terms of ANP, one of the things that we were really intentional about was saying we need to build community partnerships along the way. And that's kind of been key to all of our organizations, whether it's Sisters in Business, ANP, or Charlie's Place. We knew community buy-in and community support and trust was going to be key. And community is kind of at the core of who we are as people. So for us, we said we have to have that constant communication and trust of community partners, because we can't do it alone. I think that's one of the biggest things you learn from being in a big family is you can't do these things alone. So you're definitely going to need other people. And one of the things we talked about too was we need to be able to build small. So I'm the big visionary, and my sisters are always like, come on back. So making sure we had that checks and balance in place. But as we were going up, we had the checks and balances, but we also are offering and welcoming other people into the space. So that's a lot of the building blocks that we put in place to say, as we grow, we bring other people into this. We share opportunities for them to be a part of our space. In ANP Consulting, we have other consultants that we work with that we say, hey, if we can't do this work, we want to make sure we're passing it off to you, especially as another Black woman, to say, hey, this is the things that we've done. We've surrounded ourselves with mentors and other people who we can come in and say, can you check me, my work, to have that checks and balances? Also, let me share some best practices and tips that I have learned. I can't do this particular contract. How about I invite you in on this process of doing the contract so you can learn what we have learned, right? And that's the same thing with Sisters in Business. Through our brunches, our workshops, we are always very transparent to say, I want to teach you what I have learned, and I want you to teach me what you have learned. So it's always this community, transparency, and we're helping to build as we go.
Okay, I appreciate that.
You have said a lot, and I'm thinking, if there's one thing I guess that you would like to share in terms of like a pearl of wisdom, something that you have 3 different businesses. So through that, is there one string of pearl or something that comes to mind for each of those businesses that you'd like to share with our viewers?
The biggest thing I would say is self-care and balance. It's easy when you have multiple businesses that are actually run out of passion that you just get burnt out. For me, I felt this way, especially at the end of last year. I was trying to make sure Sisters in Business was going, that Charlie's Place was going, and ANP. All within a couple of years, like in Charlie's Place, one of our biggest programs went from 80 to over 300 youth. The following year, we started Sisters in Business, and we had over 22 events within our first year, while also growing our clientele within ANP Consulting. And I was burnt out. I was tired because I had no balance. I was all work. And I believe, I'm a person of faith, so I believe that God has given me all these things, but the things that help me build, help me have vision and be able to do the work, I had let go because I was so busy doing the work. And I think it's very easy when you start your business to get into the business of the work that you forget that you have to work on yourself, and that you have to have balance, and you have to have clarity, and you have to be still so you can hear, so you can make the necessary changes that need to happen. So definitely is that self-care. And I'll be transparent, like in the middle of last year, 2020, I had been working so much, I ended up having to have surgery. It wasn't something I was anticipating,
Yeah.
but I felt like it was the thing that slowed me down to say, hey, you're running and your body is impacted by it. So whatever you're not taking care of, it's going to catch up with you eventually. And the work will be there always, but you won't if you don't take care of yourself. So that is my wisdom, words of wisdom to people, is take care of yourself.
Okay.
Don't let the work you. You work your purpose and have balance.
So how can people get in touch, or if they'd like to help with any of the organizations, how is there social media that you like to share?
Absolutely. So I will start first with my business, ANP Consulting. You can go to our website, which is anpcreates.com. And from that website, you can get directly connected to all of our social media pages. For Sisters in Business, we're much more active on our social media. So we do have a Facebook page, but you can also go directly to our website, which is sistersinbusinessmi.com. And you can also get directly connected to all of our Instagram pages, Facebook pages, and the same thing with Charlie's Place. And Charlie's Place is kzoo.charliesplace.com. You can easily get in touch with us there as well. With Charlie's Place and Sisters in Business, we're much more active on our social media pages. So if you go on our websites, it'll direct you directly to any of our social media pages.
Okay. So we definitely are going to have you back speaking on other topics in the future, and we hope that you'll actually join us. We do feel like you have a wealth of information, and the whole social entrepreneurship is really important too, and it is work that can be done, and maybe everyone isn't aware of social entrepreneurship. So we thank you.
Thank you all for having me. This has been great, and looking forward to possibly being able to come back.
Absolutely, you will.
With all
we will.
6 of your siblings?
Bring them on.
Yes.
Yeah, if you want all 6 of us,
No.
it's going to be hilarious.
Yeah, we just might take you up on that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a
good day.
Have
You
a good
too.
weekend.